Yeah.
So
See if you, there it goes. I think we're on now. I think it worked.
take it away.
All right. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? I am joined with Bess Auer and Joshua Johnson this morning for Blog Talk TV Tuesdays. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? How are you, Bess? And how are you, Josh?
I am good. So hang on. I'm going to show. This is Joshua Johnson's Explorer, kind of, up in the air.
Nice. Can you get in there?
Ford has. Oh yeah. I wrote on.
It looks like there's a screen in front of it. Okay, there's a screen in front of it, so it looks like it's a driving experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's some of the stuff that they have us doing, and the general public will be able to try that tomorrow. So
nice.
Just wanted to show it while it was up in the air.
Well, actually,
and I'm gonna go upstairs.
Well, wait. So since we just started recording, why don't you tell everybody where you're at?
Okay, so I'm at the Detroit Auto Show. I'm here as an influencer for Ford. They bring in, for this show, they bring in about 150 digital influencers and traditional media and journalists. Okay. And really no other instructions other than to enjoy the show and share what we're learning and seeing.
Cool.
So it's a fun place to be.
Cool.
So that's where I am.
Nice. So
and I'll show you one more. I'm going to show you one more car before I stop showing cars. This is their new GT, like $200,000 to buy it. But hang on,
I do want to
check it out.
That.
I'm very familiar with the Oh yeah.
Ooh. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That'll do.
So hang on, let me get a different. You have to watch out.
I was going to say.
Are all taking pictures.
I was going to say, yeah, you definitely want to watch out. Don't step in their frame. That one guy that's like standing right next to the car is like messing up everyone's shot. Yeah. Like, you dude, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a give and take. So you have to watch what everybody else is doing. And so yesterday, so I'm out here with Carrie Gorgon, and she wanted to get a picture of this Corvette. And this guy sat in it and stayed in it for a half hour. All the other journalists were so mad at him. So you really do have to watch out.
Come on, that's beyond a concern. A half an hour, dude. I mean, like maybe a minute or two, but you got to come on out of there.
Yeah, it finally took them going over and saying, "Sir, we need you to get out."
Really?
So here's the last shot, and then I'll be done.
Yeah. Ooh. That looks tough.
So if you win that Powerball, maybe you could buy us one.
Yeah, you know what? I'll buy everyone one. Yeah, why not? We could definitely get into that too.
All right,
No, that was nice. So everybody, thanks for jumping on with us this morning. We wanted to talk a little bit about influencers and the impact that influencers are going to be this year. I was talking with Bess a little earlier last week about this, and Josh, and I'm glad you're on too, because you could definitely weigh in on this. But I have a prediction that this will be the year of the influencer on social media. I think that more companies like Instagram and like Facebook and the like are starting, and especially YouTube, are looking towards and have been looking towards influencers that are doing really well with their markets and with their platforms, and looking to them to either bolster more content or bolster more consistency, or even brands are looking to them to, for sponsoring them for anywhere from t-shirts all the way up through products. Like Bess is out there for Ford, and she's, representing Ford, as an influencer, and she, is well with that brand. And I think that's great. And so I think that this year, more brands are going to start looking at, at influencers like Bess, around to, help them to advertise and to market their products. And that's what this conversation today is all about. And maybe even to give some people some insight on how it works, how to be an influencer, how to attract brands to solicit to be an influencer, what the requirements are, maybe best case practices, advice, all of the everything in and around that.
Interesting topic.
Yeah. So, I mean, my idea about, my prediction for this year about being the year in influencers is like, Josh, what do you think about that? Do you think that that's going to be more of where people are going to, or brands are going to start paying attention to, or, being how it is with traditional ads on TV and things like that, and pop-ups, things like that. Like over the past couple of years, I think that people have been dodging them as much as they can. But with people being influencers that we're familiar with, I think that that's harder for you to dodge. And I think that you probably pay more attention to those people than you do to, things that you may see like on ads on the sides of a website or something like that.
Sure. Well, I mean, we're definitely starting to see more of that. And what's interesting is that the influencer has existed for a long time. As long as we've had celebrities and just, people that the general population was aware of, celebrities and athletes, things along those lines. Influencers have been at play. I think that the biggest difference is now we're seeing people that are influencers based on an area of experience or expertise.
Okay.
So it's no longer just Kim Kardashian, who everyone knows,
right,
who, she reps all sorts of brands, but in my mind anyway, doesn't necessarily provide value to a specific brand other than she creates awareness that they know that exists, but she's not a leader in the industry of which those brands, operate. Versus now you see people who have, blogs and websites and YouTube channels that focus on areas of expertise.
Yeah.
You're able to let credible, give some credit to the types of products that they might be supporting. So now, it's not Kim Kardashian saying you should buy this new MacBook because it's really super cute,
right?
Which is totally something she would say.
It would be,
versus getting a tech blogger to actually talk about the value of one laptop versus the other, the durability of it, the lifelong, the life of the battery, and things along those lines. The traditional influencers of celebrities and athletes and things like that aren't going to go away, but now we have a better option as far as people who can be more targeted and who their audience is.
Yes.
And people who are known for their knowledge base or known for their experience, not just known for being known.
I like that. So because that's actually fantastic. Now we happen to have a brand influencer with us today, Bess. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, when you got started, how you got started, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, let me know. I don't know if my Wi-Fi is going out or if it's, I don't know. Let me know.
You're back now, but the audio is staying strong. So, but the video just came back, which is great.
Let me walk a little bit, find a new place. So I fell into being an influencer through my conference. So I produced the Florida Blogger and Social Media Conference, and Ford is one of my big sponsors for that. And through that, they then started utilizing me as a brand influencer.
Okay.
And Ford is interesting, and I think they do a great job with how's the reception?
I think much better right where you are. Yep.
Okay, I'll stay here. So the interesting thing about Ford is they do a really good combination of people that have 300,000 subscribers on YouTube to 20 subscribers on YouTube.
Okay.
People that have 1,000 followers on Twitter to, 1 million followers on Twitter. They do a great job of doing a combination, and it's on purpose because they recognize what Joshua was just talking about, that the celebrity aren't always giving the ROI. They don't always give the return on what they may have to pay to compensate for that. Whereas if you develop and work with a smaller number of bloggers or influencers, regardless of their following, you're going to start to create what are called brand ambassadors. So you treat them right, you bring them back again and again, you get them really familiar with your brand, and then you create really loyal fans that are talking about them year round. So I really am not familiar with cars. I don't know cars really well. I like driving cars. I know what looks cool. I know what, hey, this is a cool color or a cool design. And really, that's what influences a lot of car buying. Most car shoppers, and we know that women are the deciders for most car shopping. Research shows that. Most of them are not caring what the horsepower is. They want to know what color does their family fit, what's it like to drive, what kind of conveniences do the car provide. So they bring in not only topic specific, there are plenty of car bloggers here, auto bloggers here, but they also bring in tech bloggers, they bring in mom bloggers, they bring in bloggers that blog about blogging. So they are looking for that cross section to bring in. So I see that being the trend. I think moving away from the big celebrity bloggers and moving more to the smaller handful, because they can take my content that I create and they can blast it out on their networks to reach, millions of people. But it's the content that I create for that brand that's important, and that's what they're looking for most, I think, versus my huge following, which I really don't have. So I think it's the quality of the content that the blogger creates versus the overall.
But it also matters who that individual's audience is. You know, Bess, you might say that you don't have the biggest following yourself, but you put together a regional conference for bloggers. So, I mean, if you have more access to more bloggers than anyone I know in Florida, and probably the Southeast, because of that. And so, you know, you present a number of opportunities, but you make a great point. It's not just necessarily about your expertise, but it's just who you are and what you produce. You know, so, you know, you may not be a car blogger, but you're a mom, you run your own company. There's a lot of ways that you can relate to segments of the audience where, yes, some people are going to see a celebrity and say, well, I want this car because so-and-so celebrity has it. But there's plenty of times where that celebrity is not going to be able to sell the product for it. They're not going to be able to give a true representation. I don't see many celebrities driving around in a Ford Fiesta, for example, right? If they're going to pitch a Ford Fiesta, actually, there's an NBA player who's pitching for Kia at one point. You know damn well he's not driving that Kia. He's driving a Rolls, you know? And so it just doesn't line up. You know, but so there's a certain amount of relatability to others who can actually own or drive one of those vehicles, can tell you about how it really works for them and how it works for their life. You know, and celebrities oftentimes can't do that. Not to say that they still can't help sell cars. They can help sell pretty much anything. But, you know, when it comes to certain things, we need people to have more experience either in life or with those actual products. You know, if I'm looking for advice on home repairs, I'm not looking at a celebrity. If I am, I'm looking to a celebrity like Bob Vila from This Old House. You know, who has established credibility.
So I think that's interesting because I would do the same, and I don't think I've ever identified it until actually just now thinking about it. So if I see a celebrity that's promoting a product, I'm most likely going to see right through that and say that, okay, well, it's just a celebrity promoting this product. However, if like you, Josh, or you, Bess, say, hey, you know what, I just picked up this new digital camera that does this, that, and the third. And it's great for when you're doing, you know, videos and doing this, that, and the third. If you guys were to say that to me, then I would be more apt to look into that and say, oh, well, if they're using it and they like it, I'll buy it. Versus if, let's say, some random celebrity that got on and, you know, was holding it in this, you know, in this heavily illuminated room and, you know, highly produced commercial type of thing. You know what I mean? And I think that I haven't really paid attention to that before, but now that I'm thinking about it, like I would pay more attention to you guys saying something like that and endorsing something like that than I would an actual celebrity, which is interesting to me.
Well, and you play different roles, right? So like a celebrity might have the big wide audience net that they can cast. But so that might be the first time you heard about, you know, this new camera is from a celebrity. But when you go to search and learn about it, you're going to learn about it from people who are more like you, or people who do what you want to be doing with that equipment versus somebody who's just saying, hey, this is cute and this is pretty and this does this X, Y, and Z. And you know they've never actually held or used that equipment other than when they were shooting that commercial.
And, you know, that falls right into the word of mouth marketing, which, you know, they know works. They know that if somebody's researching a car, you'll see all the time on Facebook, hey, you know, who loves their car, or, you know, who can recommend a great place. And so they know that word of mouth marketing works. And so if they can, I just posted, it was not my find. Somebody from IZEA posted it. Linda Galea posted an article about a trend of moving away from the celebrity endorsers and moving towards the mid-size or smaller digital influencers, but really grooming them well to love your product, to become those loyal fans. So I posted it on Gotta Get Blogging. Later today, I'll try and find it and tweet it out. I don't have access on my phone to go grab it. If you go on Facebook to facebook.com/ I think it's FLBlogCon still, maybe for the URL.
I'm on my way.
You'll be able to find it. Okay, yeah. So post that. It was a great read. It was a fascinating read, and it really spells out the case for brands not spending that huge money that they would have to spend on some of these huge celebrity endorsements and instead grooming the smaller size and working from that angle to create a brand community of really loyal people that really love your products.
Yeah.
And I think that falls into, as brand influencers, I think we have to be careful, and hopefully people are starting to learn this, with who you actually reach out to work with. It does need to be a product you believe in. So I'm so happy that Ford fits everything that I like about the company. Not only are they a great sponsor to work with, but just their story, the All-American story. And the more I learn about them and some of the things that the thought and care they put into their products, and they do a great job of communicating that. But really, the last 2 blog posts that I wrote about them had nothing to do with cars. It was really more about, and it was actually titled Why I Blog About Ford. And it really kind of embraced all the stuff as a company, their core values, what they're trying to do to make the world a better place. Yes, they are a for-profit car company, but their approach to the industry and their approach to making the world a sustainable place, and, you know, really some of the unique things that they're doing make it easy for me to then brag on it. If it wasn't a company I really didn't believe in, then it's kind of hard to come across authentic, organic, and even really find things to write about time and time.
See if you could, you're kind of coming in and out, Bess. See if you could switch over spots.
Yeah, I'll walk around. So, Joshua, I know that for Jay's Everyday Fashion, the group she partners with make a difference. So maybe you might talk a little bit about that too.
I couldn't hear it.
Just about finding companies that you believe in. That
yeah, absolutely. You know, that's something that Jeanette faces all the time. You know, a range of you know, fashion companies will reach out and want to do different types of sponsored content. But she's very specific about who she will work with. And one of the first criteria is the price points of the clothing that they have.
Okay.
You know, sometimes she does work with boutiques or stores that are a little higher end, but they have to have really good sales to make the stuff affordable, you know, whenever she's going to work with them. Because essentially she won't accept clothes or do sponsorship deals with companies that don't sell products that she would buy with cash out of her own pocket. You know, that's kind of the baseline criteria. And she's actually had brands reach out and offer to send her, you know, dresses that were $1,000. You know, and I think a lot of women would just absolutely love that opportunity. And while she appreciates it, she wouldn't spend $1,000 on a dress unless she could get a $1,000 dress. Maybe if she could get it for $200, she would do it because that would be a great deal. And she's really about going after the deal, you know, but that happens all the time. And you have to make sure that you're staying true to your brand across the board. You know, we've done a number of things with Ford. Ford fits along with the brand that she's built. You know, versus if, you know, Range Rover were to reach out and want to do a sponsored post or something like that, that wouldn't be a great fit. Would I mind driving around in a Range Rover for a while? No, absolutely not. But as far as, you know, would we go out and drop the $80,000 on one ourselves? We probably wouldn't, which means it wouldn't be a right fit for us to work with through the blog.
Right. I think it's interesting to hear that. But let me ask you this though. And speaking of your wife also, is there, for people who are just starting out, is it something that they should get in writing before they do a partnership or a deal with the brand, or does the brand do that side of things to make sure that there's, you know, some kind of consistency? Like if they're going to post about something, does it have to be, you know, every other day or every day or once a week, or, you know, do they have to approve something before things go out? You know, like, how does that work at the very, very beginning of things?
It's always on a case-by-case basis. Generally speaking, you know, the larger the company that you're looking to partner with, the more they're going to control, you know, the various aspects of the deal, right? So they're going to have their own contract that they're going to send you. They're going to have a pretty good idea of the parameters of which you're going to work. The larger the company, the greater the odds that they're going to want final approval before anything posts. But you can also dictate your terms as well, you know, and make sure those are in there. So, you know, Jeanette will allow for somebody to have the final approval of post. There's no problem with that. Okay. She will allow someone else to write her post. So, and every post she does, when it's sponsored or not, she writes it with her own words and her own views of those products and services, and that's it. And so, but here's the thing: she'll only talk about things from from the positive side, right? So if somebody reaches out and they want to do a sponsored post and there's an agreement reached, they send the products and the products, fall apart. The quality is just not there as described or things along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to do a negative post about it, but what she'll do is reach back out to them and let them know, I'm sorry, I got the products and they just didn't meet the standards. And so I'm going to go ahead and not do this post. And then they'll back out of the range at that point rather than having to post something negative about that experience. Because she's not going to do it dishonestly, but she wants to come from a positive place.
Okay.
And so that's kind of her focus there rather than, I got this purse and it just fell apart, the moment I opened it and, this brand is terrible. Mm-hmm. By the way, this is sponsored by XYZ person.
I mean, it's funny to say that, but I wonder, is it better to be honest or is it better to be not in a case like that where it's like, okay, this may not have been up to par, but is it better to say that this wasn't up to par and then my experience about getting another one, replaced was better and then talk about it at that point? I guess it's case by case too, but I'm just wondering if I personally wouldn't want someone to always be posting positive reviews about things because it still leaves to the imagination. Like, what did they come across that wasn't positive, or is there things that come across that aren't positive?
Well, let me rephrase that then. It's not that the reviews have to be positive; they have to be realistic. But if they come across as being too negative, then she would reach out to them and say, for example, if she got a pair of shoes and she thought they were really comfortable, however, the color didn't quite seem to be as described, or the material was a little different than she expected, she'll talk about that. It's very honest and very real. But if she received the shoe and it was broken, it was the wrong color, they were super uncomfortable, there was a little note in there that said that they were handmade by children in a third world country, then there's probably not much good to talk about.
Sure.
And you probably should not be working with that brand, working with that product, because she wants to work with brands and products that she believes in, rather than just picking up anything and then, trashing it if it's not good enough.
Sure.
Can you all hear me now?
We can. You're back, video and everything.
I'm standing on the stairs. I'm looking for the right place. So
you're good.
If it gets too, I don't know how to make you co-host on here. So sorry.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes. If I get too bad though, I'll jump off and probably not come back on. We're getting lots of journalists in here all on the same media, all on the same Wi-Fi. The only thing I would add to negativity, Joshua's exactly right with, of course, positive, the brand loves you. But I believe it was Isaiah shared research that people are more apt to believe you're an organic and authentic voice if you also, and actually it works better for the brand too, if you are mostly positive, but also include a little constructive criticism in there as well.
Absolutely.
That, you have to in order to be believable.
Okay.
And so for new influencers, so you were asking for people how they get started into it and what some of the expectations are.
Yeah.
My experience, it is also a case-by-case basis, but also if the blogger can identify ahead of time with the brand exactly what they're going to expect. For example, do you want me to include certain links? Do you want me to have any certain messaging in there? And then what sort of approval do you need, or can I just post? If you can get that ahead of time, it really helps out. There's nothing worse than sending a post in and then having them come back and say, oh, we need to change all this.
Sure.
For the brand to also clarify that before they even get started posting. And it helps with the expectations, and I think the blog post all the way around.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's very different if, like I said, if you can't find good things to say about the product versus, I remember there was one time where somebody sent her a handbag and she loved it. The quality, like the leather and everything was great. A zipper broke on it. So she talked about it, and they sent her replacement. And I'm pretty sure in the post she even talked about the fact that when it came, it was broken. She talked to them. She had a replacement within 3 days, and everything was perfect. So it's a very real, honest, sharing of the experiences she had with that, with a product that she really did love. There was a minor issue, and they were able to fix it pretty quickly. So all is well when in the end.
Okay, so that's
a great opportunity for the company to show what great customer service, because everything,
absolutely,
what product doesn't occasionally have a problem,
right?
Or so great way to show, hey, look how good our cucustomer service is too.
Absolutely.
Now I have another question and this could be for both of you guys. I just lost the question. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just lost it. Because we were talking. Oh man.
Oh, now the pressure's on.
Yeah, now the pressure is on.
Pressure is on.
I'll say this. I'll say this as well. I think brands are getting much more. They're starting to get more creative in who they approach and how they approach them and why they approach them. So, and I think Bess was illustrating this a little bit. I know for us when we went on the Ford trip to Colorado back in like October or whatever that was. It was very interesting because there was everything from one of the editors from Car and Driver magazine on this trip to some mommy bloggers from Texas to some hobby auto bloggers to some travel bloggers to like covering the gambit. But identifying who your audience really is and on the blogger side is really important, right? So that so the brands, when they approach you, they know who they're getting into. And then you need to be creative when you're talking to them about how that brand can fit really well for you. You know, there's certain things that are going to be just blatantly obvious, right? Like if you're a blogger, doing a sponsorship deal with a camera company that you like just makes sense because the odds are you're taking pictures a good portion of the time wherever you go for whatever you cover in your blog, right? But you know, there was a while back where she did a sponsor post, and I believe it was with a cell phone carrier. I don't remember which one it was, but they sent her a cell phone, you know, when it first came in, we were kind of talking about like, well, this is just kind of interesting. You know, she doesn't really cover technology or anything along those lines. And I was thinking about, you know, her take on this phone that she was reviewing is far different than the take of a technology blogger, right? So, you know, she's not talking about the processing power and the speed of the device and all that kind of stuff. She was talking about how, for her phone is an accessory that she has with her, and how that, you know, kind of goes along with her overall her looks. And then she did talk about some of the communication aspects and why it was beneficial for her and the way that she uses a device. This is back when they were looking at the double screen phones. So it was a dual screen phone. And she talked about why she really liked that. But she didn't go into any of the technical details because, of course, she asked me about it. And I'm like, oh, well, it has this processor and this, and the battery life is that. And she's like, that means nothing to me. So she didn't talk about any of that.
Which is interesting because I think that the people who probably are following her, who was her audience, was probably along the same lines. You know, I guess like what you guys were saying earlier, and like what Bess, what you're saying, there's people that are in there right now where you're at for the auto show that are bloggers of different levels. You know, they may have a few followers, they may have, you know, a few hundred or a few thousand, but what they talk about is completely is majority different across all of them. You know, they talk about the same product in a different way, or talk about different things about the product in a way that permeates with people, that it resonates with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And I think that's interesting. It's interesting, I would say, for the people who are, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and if the brand is savvy, they're looking for those cross sections of different audiences.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I think and that's it. This is the question I was going to come up with earlier that I couldn't remember. But for people who are looking to kind of get started with reaching out to some influencers, I would say, like, for me, because I know you guys, like, I'd probably reach out to you guys first, right? And that's kind of going local first. Would you think that would be a good tactic, or should you just go ahead and go right out to the brands abroad or whoever and reach out to them, you know, with enticing ideas in ways that you would think it would be influential for them to then come back and endorse you?
I'll start with that one. I think it's great to go to your favorite local places and talk with them, especially if you have a small following. You still have an influential following. You know, if you have your blogs read by 100 people, that's 100 people you can talk to. You're probably not going to be paid a bunch to do it, but it's a start. And if you create great content where they like what you do, you kind of are building your resume of doing this great content. And I think then you start reaching out to some of the bigger brands as you grow. Ford has an interesting program where any blogger, no matter the size, can actually reach out to them and do a test drive with the car and write about it. They actually will set you up with the car for a week.
Oh, wow.
And because they want to hear new voices, they want to hear new takes, and it doesn't cost them anything to set you up with the car. So they are a very easy brand to approach, but of course they really see the value in working with bloggers of all sizes. Other brands, the less socially savvy, may only look at the following versus what you can bring to it. So some brands will be easier to reach out to than others. But I know that one of the corporate sponsors that we have for FL BlogCon, the guy I work with said, I really wish more bloggers would reach out to me with ideas on how to work, because he said, I can only think of so many things. So I think if you as a blogger can come up with any ideas. So for example, even though I'm an influencer for Ford, I still have to pitch ideas to them on occasion. So for Florida Swim Network, we want to take an SUV and drive from Orlando to Omaha for the Olympic trials.
Okay.
So we want to get an Explorer, something like that, and we'd live stream along the way. We'd probably pick up some swimmer Olympians, and have them ride along with us and do interviews in the car, kind of like who's the late night talk show host that does
That's interesting.
Well, I know Seinfeld is doing it now.
Yeah, he's
kind of like
yeah.
Yeah, so we want to do something that really involves the car. We'll showcase how we use the GPS and the NSYNC and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so that is something that I will be pitching to them. It fits our brand. We'll probably stop at some of the swim teams along the way as we're driving.
Yeah.
And so that is something that we're looking to do, but it's something I'm going to have to pitch to them. They may like it. They may say, great. They may say, you know what, I don't know if it's going to fit enough people for to invest in that. Or they may say, you know what, we like the content you produce. We know you produce quality content, so we can always use that later. So I don't know.
That's
be creative.
Yeah.
Be creative with what you pitch. Make sure it fits your brand and what you like to do, and then don't be afraid to approach them. Sometimes, though, it's finding the right person to approach in a company that can be key and make the difference.
Sure. I think that's a different conversation all by itself, trying to find the right person. But I like that creativity idea. I think that's fantastic because, like you were saying, Josh, I forget the name of the show. It's like I forget the name of the show that Seinfeld does where he's like driving for coffee or something like that. Comedians in Cars.
Comedians in Cars.
And I've seen a bunch of them, and a lot of them are actually pretty funny. But it's interesting because it's very basic, if you will. Mm-hmm. Like it's a very basic thing to do, just be sitting in a car and having a conversation, which he probably does on a regular basis, and just thought that, hey, why don't I record this? And then each time we stop and get coffee or something, each at a different place each time. But what you were saying, Bess, I think is telltale. So for you guys that are listening, that both now and on the replay, think of something creative. I think that's we just lost Bess for a second. I think that's definitely thinking up of something creative in a way of using your platform, whether that be Snapchat or Periscope or Blab or or your blog or whatever. I think that using something creative to come back to a brand with would probably be more effective than just coming to them and just asking with empty hands, saying, hey, I'd like to be a brand ambassador for you. Where do I sign up? With nothing to offer them. I think that's key.
Well, and before you even get to that point, I think it's really important for you to try to decide or determine ahead of time what value can you provide to the brand, right? So it's not just the pitch of, we're working on a project right now that we're not really talking about publicly yet, but I've started approaching some brands. And when I do that, I'm approaching brands, first of all, brands that we know that we want to work with. I've got a list for a couple of different segments. And I prioritize that list based on, personal interest and belief in the product and the fit for the overall, goal we're trying to accomplish. And each one of them, as I reach out, I am doing a custom kind of, pitch. So it's not just, it's X blog posts and number of pictures and whatever, but it's all around that specific product and how that specific product will tie into this overall experience. So, for example, if I'm reaching out to a car company and a hotel company and a travel company, for example, each one of them is going to, it's all part of the same journey. But each of them are going to have different opportunities for exposure that I can creatively weave into that entire experience.
Sure.
Versus each of them, you're going to get 3 blog posts, 5 pictures, 2 mentions on Twitter, and a Facebook status update. But you have to really make sure that you know who your audience is, and no matter the size, the more information you have on your audience, the more valuable your audience is to your potential partners. Right? If you just have an audience of 1,000 people and you have no idea who they are,
Mm-hmm.
that has some value because there's 1,000 people who follow you.
Sure.
But if you have an audience of 100 people, and you know that 80% of your audience are women ages 25 to 35, there's significant value in a number of brands, because that is specifically who they want to reach right now, not with their product line, but with a very specific product.
This is good.
And so there's a lot of value in that. It's really important that you understand that. And it's important that you understand how you bring that value back to the brand. It's not just, well, I'd love to have your free stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about it. But how long does that go on? You know?
Right.
How long do they continue to get exposure from that? If I'm pitching a camera company and I'm taking all of my pictures with them with their camera, how long do I continue to use a hashtag for their company? Or how long do I, continue to give them continued exposure over periods of years, even potentially?
So this is we've got a question from Aniello Grande. Thank you for joining this morning. He's asking, how do you get those metrics on live stream platforms?
So it's definitely much more challenging on live streaming, but that's also why I encourage everyone to really focus on their core audience, which should be on their own property. And so for example, through email, you're able to periodically ask questions that will allow you that information. You can look at some of your analytics from Google and other places. They can give you some better ideas. Think about how you can survey your audience by offering a small reward for them to participate in it.
Yeah, maybe a call to action.
Yeah, exactly. So your data is not going to be Loctite 100% guaranteed. But if today, for example, you were to put out a survey via email and say, I'm offering a $50 gift card for entry. For everyone who fills this out, I'm going to do a drawing at the end of the week. And at the end of the week, you have 100 responses to that survey. And that gives you some critical information. One of the most invaluable pieces of information to most companies is the average income of your readership, right? You want to know if they can afford the products that they're selling, or if they make too much money to care about the inexpensive product that you're selling. But demographic of all areas are really important. Where are they located? Some want to know by state or region. A lot of times now it's just by country. But any additional information you have creates more value for a company or a brand as a partner for you.
I'm actually putting this in there in the chat. And actually, we're talking about creating a survey and include income, average income.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you ask questions, some people are going to be more likely to answer questions than others. But if you can try to incentivize them, and of course, some people are going to be more honest than others. But every little chance you get, there's different ways you can kind of create like an ad on your blog that is just asking questions. So every now and then it'll pop up with a question, what is your age range, or how many pairs of shoes do you have? And you can get creative. You can get creative in how you ask questions of what kind of information that will give you without asking directly, how much money do you make? Just what is your zip code? Because based on your zip code, we now know the general area of where you live, but we also have an idea of what the median income is in that area. So we have a little bit more information about you just based on that.
These are good tips. What you touched on what I was going to use as a follow-up question, but using analytics, because for me, I don't know everything there is to know about analytics, but I do know that there's a lot of comprehensive information in analytics, and it goes really, really deep past just your page views. So if you're wherever that you're on, if it's, live streaming, if it's, a social network or whatever, I think that creating a good call to action and just in it, whether it's just verbal, even it's just telling people that, hey, when you're done watching this, go visit, gottagetblogging.com and see more of our previous shows, and then also ask some questions if you have, blah, blah. And then when they get there, there's probably a pop-up asking them, like you said, hey, where are you visiting us from? Or where do you live? Or, enter your zip code so we know where you're watching from and things like that. You kind of get, some of these key questions that you could then, use later on. And I think that's fantastic.
Just remember, the more questions you ask, the less likely you are to get answers. So if you can break it up over time, that's usually easier. And then think about how you can provide value to your readers for participating, right? Because they're creating value for you by showing up A, but also by B, by giving you more information about themselves. So if they're going to give me information, which makes me more valuable to the brands I want to work with, then I need to provide some value back to them. So maybe that's a white paper, depending on what you blog about, sharing some of your industry experience or expertise. Maybe it's entering a giveaway to win a $50 gift card or a 1 hour consultation for something. So make sure you're giving back to them as you're getting this data, because every data point you get, they're creating more and more value for you.
That's good. I think that I might challenge myself to do that, because like I'm more of a service provider than I'm a product producer.
Right.
So maybe I'll offer like a free consultation for something, or offer a free session, a free buy 1 hour, get a second hour session or something like that for photography. I don't know, something along those lines, and then include one or two of those questions. I do agree with you too about asking those questions just one at a time and not frequently, because one of the things that I learned at the end of last year was that, especially with email marketing, is to make them short and sweet. So if you want to send something out, once a week, that's fine. But you probably want to keep it really, really short, just one topic, one point that you want to get out there. So that way people are more likely to read that and then take action on it. Instead of seeing this long list of all of the stuff that's going on, that they're just going to get lost and not going to spend the time on it. So that's interesting.
See, and we do a daily email, but but that's what the readers expect as well.
That's what they're expecting.
That's what they signed up for. So we didn't say, get an email once a month and all of a sudden we barrage them, once a day. It actually goes out 6 days a week. But with that consistency, the advantage of that is that if I want to just add a question in maybe once a week, it's not sending out an additional email. It's not an additional touch for them. It's not additional work on their behalf. It's just at the bottom of the email, there's a question, hey, when's the last time you bought a pair of shoes? Or when's the last time you shopped at this store? Or when's, whatever. And, of course, not everyone's going to respond. But we know that we'll get a portion of responses. And every time that happens, you can collect data and there's more value.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here.
Sure.
Are there any influencers that you know of that come to mind when you first think about influencers?
Just in general?
In general, yeah, and just in general, like who comes to mind when you think of like a really good brand influencer? Who comes to mind for you?
Good question.
I know, right?
Well, obviously my wife.
Yeah, that's good.
That is a really good question. Well, another guy that's local. His name is Daniel Ryder, and he's a brand influencer for Samsung cameras.
Okay. I know him. Yeah.
So I actually met him because he did a photography contest on his blog, and I entered it, and I won a camera.
Nice.
But I see his stuff all the time, and he's a great example of somebody who doesn't have a huge audience. But he's very consistent. He's regularly publishing content, and covering a range of value for Samsung. So I mean, they essentially just send him every time a new camera comes out, a new lens comes out, they just send it to him. Which I love that arrangement.
I should have reached out to him to get him on here, because I met him actually at last year's Florida BlogCon, and he was out there actually in his Samsung Polo, and and we actually talked. We broke out into a session. I think it was early off in the morning, and we were talking about photography. And he was like, I have this camera and he had that. And he had like the newest, whatever the newest phone was at the time. I think it was like the Galaxy S. I think it was the S6. I think the S6. I think he had the S6 at the time. And so he had that as the phone, and so he was all Samsunged out. And his story about how he got onto it, I think was kind of, not to say accidental, but I don't think he reached out to them necessarily, but I have to get him on here to tell his story about that. But the way he talked about it was like so humble and so sound like really easygoing. And I was just so surprised that I thought that you'd have to be this person who was, I don't know, like a Guy Kawasaki type of thing. You know what I mean? Before you finally were able to start looking at trying to get people to be a brand influencer. And he's like, no, he goes out, he takes pictures, he goes to different places, and he's actively, seeking ways.
I'll be right back. I've got somebody at the door. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. And so he's actively seeking ways, to utilize and strengthen his relationship with Samsung. Matter of fact, we had talked about trying to do a photo walk actually, and we're still in how do you say, in negotiations, going back and forth between him and myself and another photographer to see how we could link that up. But it's just interesting to see that dynamic could actually work. And again, he's local, which to me was just surprising. I was like, wow, I really thought that it would have to be someone who, was, I don't know, had, so much more of an influence. What I was saying, Josh, while you were gone, was that I talked to him afterwards, and we are trying to set up, kind of going back and forth and trying to set up a photo walk, and kind of utilize his influence with Samsung to see also if we can maybe even get them to, sponsor something, like, not saying necessarily a camera, and I don't know if they could, but maybe something, where they would be somewhat involved, and maybe we could use like a hashtag that we can kind of relate back to them. Not long ago, I don't know if I forget the guy's name, but I forget the guy's name who runs. There's an Instagram handle called IGers Orlando.
Yeah,
or IGers. Yeah. Okay. So you know him. So he's like an influencer for me, right? Him, Quay Hugh, and a couple of others. But they put together the Instagram worldwide Instagram meet. They did the one for here in Orlando where we met up at Lake Eola, and I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah, I was there.
You were there?
Yeah.
I missed you. I can't believe that.
Oh, I saw you.
You did? You remember seeing me?
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't know you at the time.
No,
so that's cool. So you see how small world, man. That's crazy. So that was, and I didn't know anything about, like, I haven't met Quay before, which he runs a couple of Instagram accounts, around Q and around Orlando.
Yep.
So I knew them, those two. So, so I knew them, but I never met them. So when we got there, I was kind of like, okay, what's going on? Like, who are these guys? And when they started talking, I was like, oh, okay, this is who they are. But anyway, Instagram had sent them, stickers and like all this stuff, and kind of had a general initiative on what not to say rules, but like what you should, what you could be doing that day. But at the end all, it was just for people to kind of get together that were in that city, that post about the city and do things like that, for you to just network and meet, and just have a good time. And I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, that was a great event. I've gone out and shot with Q a few times.
Have you? Okay. So the only thing about that one is that we got so held up in downtown, we forgot to meet to stop doing what we were doing at Lake Eola to go back and meet with them at 180.
Yeah,
we missed out on shooting a top. I was so upset. But hopefully he does it again sometime soon and work.
Yeah, there'll be another one.
Yeah. So I think that, so that's what I would like to do, something like that with Daniel, and then, probably with you as well. And maybe see if I can get, Quay involved and whoever else to do some more things like that. Cause there was so many people that showed up and they had a really good time. And I think that for just promoting, through Instagram, or a large part, was able to grab, a pretty good audience. So, I mean, imagine if, more people knew about it and were able to spread the word, even more. It'd be, I don't know, like probably like 100 or so, photographers that would show up, and model.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, those are some good examples of like with Lewis, he has a kind of an ongoing relationship with Instagram and to kind of help, cultivate the community locally.
Okay.
I think usually what you end up seeing though, when you're talking about influencers, is that it's usually, more of a short-term relationship. It's usually a one, maybe two post kind of situation.
Okay.
Around a product or service. That's the way it's been. And I think now we're actually starting to move towards where we're seeing more long, ongoing contractual relationships.
Okay.
I know there's a couple times now where Jeanette's been under contracts for a year or so with one company to be a spokesperson. So she was a spokesperson for Walmart.com for a year. And so, prior to that, it would be, well, here's a sponsor post for, these items. And then it turns into, no, we want you to actually be represented as for a year's time.
Oh, wow.
So I think we're starting to see more of that now. It's almost more of like an endorsement deal than a single sponsor post, or, where they're planning that much more out in advance now when it comes to buying digital on blogs and through influencers.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because before I think it's much more. Well, there's an extra $50,000 in the budget. Let's hire some bloggers.
Yeah.
It felt much more like oftentimes it was just the remnants, and we would and then they'll just spend whatever's left over on something like that. Whereas now that is becoming more and more a part of the core planning and the spend up front versus towards the end of the deal.
I think it's fantastic. I'm excited to see that. grow. Like I said, I think that it's something that's going to be growing even more this year, and more focus being put on it this year from brands.
Yep.
And I'm excited to kind of see that grow, because it just takes I just see, traditional marketing continuing to morph into something that is more strategic, more focused, and not just, what we've all, known, for the last, 20, 30, 50 years, through the masses, like through radio, through TV, things like that. I think that the only time that I actually get excited about commercials really is during the Super Bowl, which is about to come up. I look forward to that because I know that they're going to, put a lot of effort into it. Matter of fact, and speaking of that, Doritos has been doing really, really well for the past couple of years in terms of the Super Bowl, because they go out and they actually, I think they hold out like auditions for people to submit videos and things like that. They crowdsource for people to submit videos, and then they end up, choosing, I think, like the top few. I forget how many. And then they actually have them on there, which is, people who could be just as easily, creating these videos just for fun on YouTube anyway, that end up, getting picked up. And, now you come from YouTube and maybe just having, I don't know, let's say, 20,000 views or something like that, to being, something that's reproduced, on the big stage, for the Super Bowl. And then now it's, being viewed by millions of people. I think that's fantastic. And I think the possibilities of that, now are a lot greater. Whereas before it was this, refined, produced, checked and overchecked and rechecked commercial that, that they hire actors for and all this other stuff. And now it's like, it's gonna be someone with, some pretty good, HD cameras, like some GoPros and, some handhelds, and maybe even their cell phones, like a brand new iPhone or new Samsung or whatever. And they're producing these videos, and they're getting, they're looking great, and they're getting a lot of attention. So.
Last year, there was a group from UCF, and I don't remember if their videos actually aired in the Super Bowl or not, but they were at least in the top 10, if not the top 5 videos that were produced for Doritos.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was a group from UCF, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to actually, we lost Bess. But that I think that we've covered a lot of what I wanted to talk about today, minus Bess. But I'm so sad. I'm going to reach out to Daniel and be like, I'm so sorry. I should have had you on the show. It would have been great to hear from him as well. But maybe the next time when we talk about this, I'll definitely reach out to him and have him on. But thank you, Josh, for being on and putting a lot of insight. For those of you that are watching both now and for the replays, definitely check us out. If you have any questions, reach out to Josh, reach out to Bess. On Twitter, probably better place to find you, right? On Twitter for some short
Twitter or Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, reach out to them on Twitter. They've got some really good insight, and this replay will be up, I'm sure, in a few minutes, and we'll have it reposted. But thanks for being on, Josh. I really appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Good insight. So we'll see you again next week. Everybody, we'll be back again next week with Bess and hopefully Josh and some others. Hopefully you as well that are watching on Blog Talk TV Tuesdays. Thanks for joining us.
Are you able to stop the recording?
I can't, so it's just going to have to go until we close out.
Yeah, we'll just kick ourselves off and it'll stop at some point.
Stop, yeah. See you later.
All right, take care. Bye.